Well, folks, Democrats are in complete disarray right now. Complete disarray. And now we have tampon Tim Walz saying that he's going to be jumping in the 2028 presidential race. Now, Tim Walz, in a recent interview with The New Yorker, said that he's really considering running for president if there's something that he could offer. Now, he has claimed on many occasions that he has no ambitions to run for president, but he said, look, I've never had an ambition to run for president or vice president. I would be honored if I was asked to. If I feel I can serve, I will. And if nationally people are like, dude, we tried you, he's good with that. But before we get into it, drop down below, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future. Now, following Tampon Tim's horrific loss to President Trump and J.D. Vance in November, Walz has admitted that he was a little surprised that he lost the election, which, if he was connected with reality like most people are, he wouldn't be surprised because most of this saw it coming from a mile away. We saw it coming from a mile away. When the Democrats and the media try and tell us that Joe Biden was doing somersaults and cartwheels behind closed doors, but was the most mentally sharp he's ever been, and then he goes and lays a turd out on the debate stage with President Trump, who's the real lying POS? Let's be honest about it. You know, Tim Walz said that he thought the momentum was going their way in 24, but it just clearly was not going that way. And he says that he had a real positive message for Americans, very positive. But here's my question to the tampon in chief. How is claiming that Trump supporters are Nazis and fascists a positive message? Who are you trying to win over by saying that? Okay, maybe you appease the base, but who are you actually winning over? Like in reality, who are you winning over? It makes zero sense on who you actually thought you would be winning over in this election here. And even after the election, he's doubled down on this, calling Elon Musk and Donald Trump and saying that our country has been taken over by Nazis and fascists. But if you're wondering what is really on Tampon Tim's mind, it's how in the world did this loser, Tampon Tim, lose to a billionaire and a venture capitalist? Tim went on to, claim that Democrats didn't do a good enough job showing voters that they understand where they're coming from. No, Tim. It's not that you didn't show the voters you understand where they're coming from. It's the reality that you have zero idea where everyday Americans are coming from. You weren't focused on kitchen table issues. It's as simple as that. It truly is as simple as that. I don't know what more we need to explain to you at this point. You guys were too focused on gender ideology, Trump, Orange Hitler, threat to the Constitution, threat to democracy. You were not focused on the issues that actually mattered to people. You weren't. Let's be honest about it. Give up the woke culture batters, cut back on wasteful spending, and focus on the kitchen table issues. But now we know that Tim Walz is really going to throw his hat in the race. He went on a podcast with The New Yorker, said that he's looking at throwing his hat in the race, and now Tim Walz is throwing Kamala Harris in the Kamala Harris 2024 campaign under the bus. Totally throwing him under the bus. Saying they should have held more town halls and that they didn't utilize Walz as best as they could have. He said, I think we probably should have just rolled the dice and done the town halls where voters may say, hey, you're full of shit, but I don't believe you. But it would have been better, in which I don't fully disagree with him. I think if Walz did that, I think they could have done better. I think if Harris was out there doing it, I think it would have done way worse for her. Way worse for her. He goes on to say that the Democrats need to take an assessment of where they're at right now. They need to assess the campaign missteps that they have. Look in the mirror. To own up to what you did. Own up to where you messed up on. What's your responsibility with this? And he said it in private and in public that this is what people need to do. They need to own up to what happened. But then, what does he do? He talks a big game. Oh, we need to reassess what we did. But what does Tim Walz double down on? Doubles down on calling Elon Musk and Donald Trump and his supporters Nazis and fascists. And then, he wants to talk about how you need to meet voters where they're at. But then what has he done since the campaign? He's gone on MSNBC 2 or 3 times. He's gone on The New Yorker, a far left-wing radical lunatic radio show. And now he's going to be going on, or I think he may have already recorded it on Gavin Newsom's new podcast. He's going to be going on with Gavin Newsom. Where are you meeting voters where they're at? What is a single thing you've done Well, like honestly. And even Democrat strategists hate the idea of Tampon Tim running for president in 2028. Tim Walz was so bad that even in the blue, left-wing, lunatic Somalian state of Minnesota, Tim Walz lost his home district. A district that he represented for like a decade. He still lost it. It is just absolutely insane. But here's the reality of Tim Walz. If he's actually looking for a 2028 presidential run, here's the reality. People do not look to Tim Walz as some great leader. He is a follower. He does what he's told. When George Soros and Alex Soros walk in the room, he gets down on his knees and he does whatever the hell they tell him to do. That's the reality. Tampon Tim is that weird beta male hippie uncle who talks about the crazy radical views that he believes in. The Bernie Sanders-esque views, but just even weirder. It's like at least Bernie Sanders is popular. Nobody really likes Tampon Tim. Nobody looks to him to lead the Democrats into the future. There's probably not 5 people within 1,000 miles of Minnesota who see Tim Walz as the leader to lead the Democrats out of Exodus. You know, they've been banished into the desert for 40 years, or for 40 years now. They're going to be banished into the desert. Is he going to be the one to lead them back to Israel? Is he going to lead them back there? I just don't see it happening. Because here's the reality. All Tampon Tim is ever going to be remembered for is being the worst vice presidential pick in modern American history. Probably in American history, period. I think he can make that case. Because look, this is how we got to Tim Walz as the VP. You had Obama. He's well-educated, well-spoken. Don't really like a lot of his views, but he's well-spoken. And a lot of people like him. Maybe not anymore. Obama's running, and he's like, look, I need to pick a vice president who's not going to outshine me. I need someone who's got good work-ins in D.C., but they're not going to outshine me. Who better to pick than Joe Biden? Not a very particularly smart senator. So then Joe Biden is running. And he's like, well, I can't have a vice president who's gonna outshine me. So where do you go? You go to the SHIT state of California, the horrible state of California, where crime is out of control, the amount of crime that goes on in California. Prices are out of control. You know, you want to talk about radical liberal politics in a bubble. Look at California. Look at what the Democrats have done to California. But he picks, I can't have someone outshine me. So he picks Kamala Harris. And she was the worst vice president in American history. Not even close. Not even close. And then Kamala Harris is running and she's like, look, I got to pick someone who's not going to outshine me. And like at this point, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel. You know, you empty the barrel out and you got just kind of the lard residue that's all around the barrel. She's scraping the bottom and, you know, the best she can come up with is Tim Walz. She could have picked Josh Shapiro, but I've got a theory that she picked Josh Shapiro and Shapiro said no. He said, screw you, I'm not going to let my political career, my political future go down the drain with your campaign. So she had to pick Tim Walz. Tim Walz, that's who we got stuck with. The worst vice presidential pick in American history. I'd say Kamala Harris was, but then she actually became vice president, so she's number 2, but the worst. So he's going to be remembered for 2 things. He'll be remembered for being the worst vice presidential nominee in American history, and for putting tampons in all of the boys' bathrooms in Minnesota public schools. And then, of course, you know, I guess number 3, you could say, going on a debate stage, pooping his pants, basically, and telling everybody that he makes friends with school shooters. It's like, that's it. There's nothing more to it here, folks. There's nothing more. But you know what? As a young conservative, sure, Tim, go ahead. Run for president. Embarrass the hell out of yourself again. Do it. I dare you. I dare you to do it again. Double down on your radical left-wing identity politics. You know, if the Democrats really wanted to fix this, they'd start by firing the 30% of their party, the woke progressives that have taken hostage the Democrat Party. Because you know, 70% of people who are Republicans or Trump supporters now were just Democrats like 30 years ago. You know, you want to talk about epic failures. Donald Trump had the most diverse victory as far as race and ethnicity, had the most diverse victory from a Republican candidate in decades, not even close. How did Trump win young voters? How have the Democrats, they've become the party of the elites. The Republican Party has become the party of the middle class. It is just as simple as that. But you know what, Tim? Go ahead, run. Embarrass the hell out of yourself. You're probably going to get your ass whooped in the primaries by Kamala because she's the best the Democrats got. And that's not saying a lot about Kamala Harris. That's just saying the Democrats have a pretty damn thin bench. Pretty damn thin bench. But go ahead, do it. But let me know, what are your thoughts down in the comments? Do you think Tim Walz has got a shot in hell at winning anything here? I don't think so, but let's see what happens. Drop down below, like, subscribe, and share for more. We'll catch you next time.